So, welcome to the Lisa podcast bonus edition. And this time I'm going to try to do a kind of like a live video and a podcast at the same time. So, instead of scripting out the whole thing, I wrote down some ideas of what I wanted to talk to you about today. I have been going through a mega transition and an unexpected curveball situation. So, 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, I moved into this gorgeous apartment. You can see it in the background. And I decorated it, painted it, thought I was going to be here for another 10 years. It's close to work. I found this place. It was the first place that I visited in Quebec City. And it was a difficult decision for me to make the move from my beautiful house on the island. And we're going to get back into that because I do have a guiding kind of theme that I've been thinking about through all of this crazy transition over the last few weeks. Long story short, I am going to have to move. My landlady contacted me pretty much after I got home from Newfoundland and said, Lisa, we're going to be selling your apartment. And because I was under the impression that I'd have to move in the middle of winter if they sold, depending on how it sold and so on, I was like, oh my, like for me, having a home, stable home, close to school, that's why I moved here, right? So I immediately found another place. Meanwhile, I'm in between two. It's kind of like a la land. And as you can see, I haven't really started to unpack yet, but I do have a move-in date to my new home, and I'll tell you about it later, on September 27th. I have been opening the... So as I was saying, this place is selling, and I'm a bit in limbo right now. I will have to start packing soon. So as you can understand, I've started school. It's intense. I'm starting a new entrepreneurship class, also fun, but a lot of work. And it is a very, very busy time of year to, think of moving. Mais voilà, that sometimes life throws us curveballs. And that's kind of the theme of this episode is how do we deal with curveballs when they are thrown our way? Right? So I did write down a few guiding points that I wanted to make sure that I talked about. So, sometimes when it comes to huge events like this, moving is one of them. It's akin to like getting divorced or, these big changes in our lives that completely destabilize us means that sometimes we have to not just consider the physical effects of actually moving and putting things in boxes, but we also have to consider that we're giving up an environment that we know. We're giving up a certain stability and comfort. We're giving up community. I have wonderful neighbors who take care of Buddy. We're giving up a certain routine. We're having to get used to the idea of moving into a new house, a new routine, new home, all of that. So it has caused some sleepless nights and the anxiety of dealing with people and showing my house and making sure it's pretty and all of this when it wasn't really my decision. It comes down to who controls what as well, right? So when you're a tenant, and this is the first time I've ever been a tenant, I'm discovering that the lack of control is not always easy for me. Being an owner is something I was more familiar with, but it also has its challenges, right? So anyways, we're going to, like in thinking about this podcast, I was thinking about what I do when I get very stressed, when I get bogged down in the details. And that happens to me, right? Sometimes I get bogged down into the details when I'm going through a situation. I look at all the different options, all the different possibilities. If this happens, then if that happens, then what am I do? So instead of losing my mind with anxiety, I put myself in a mental timeout. I talk to other people too, and they usually tell me, Lisa, put yourself in a mental timeout for a bit. That happened on Friday when I was at school. I crossed paths with my principal. We had a little talk, and out of concern, she said, Lisa, just take a moment, take a weekend. The world will not fall apart if you take a weekend just to recoup And that's what I'm doing. So usually when I put myself in a mental timeout, I compare it to me putting my butt on the moon, right? So if you put your mental butt on the moon, you close your eyes, I'm sitting on the moon. It's quiet up there. It's probably cold too. So there I am on the moon, and I'm looking down at the earth, and the earth from that perspective is just a blue dot. We don't see all the little people. We don't see the wars. We don't see the famine. We don't see the chaos. We don't see the joys. Everything is quiet. And if you're sitting on the moon, technically, you look down, you go or up or wherever the moon is in relation to the earth, right? As I was saying, if you're sitting on the moon and you're looking down, you know the kings and queens have come and gone. Humanity has been there, but the earth has been there way longer than humanity. And so it puts things into perspective, and it helps me to see things from a different angle. So the angle that I'm coming at right now is I look back, right? I zoom out and I look back at the arc of my life, and I go, look at all these places that I've been to and the transitions that I've made in my life, starting with, the moment I got separated or divorced from my ex-husband. We had been together for a long time. We had always lived in the same house in the middle of the country. When I got separated, it was enough to deal with the whole trauma of moving my children and all of that. I felt like it would be a horribly difficult decision for everyone. And so I was the one who left, and I was looking for a place that would be very similar to where the girls came from, right? Somewhere in the country, somewhere ideally closer to school. And then in my mind, we'd do half and half, and it would go not perfectly, but better. So it took me a long time to figure it out. But one day I went to my Auntie Rita's for a visit. We were planning a trip to Paris together. My dad had died the year before, and I had been, right, one of those serendipitous moments where you're put in touch with a long-lost relative, someone I hadn't spent a lot of time with. Rita came into my life at that point. And and after I'd gone to her house that they were renting many times. But one day I go over, and there's a for rent sign in the window. And she told me that they were buying a house. And it just clicked in my head. And I thought, oh, I could live here. So it was in the country. It was close to the river. It was relatively close to school, but a bit outside of the crazy community, like the drama of when you're getting divorced and everyone knows you and all of that. So the house had a beautiful yard, and we moved there. And I thought, okay, the girls have never moved before. They're here with me one week out of 2. I set it all up. I even got kittens. It was beautiful. It was gorgeous. And it was about a 15-minute drive to school. I mean, it was further for them, so I would have to, when I had them, I didn't want them to have to change schools. So I brought them to St. Isidore every day from Clarence Point, which is like a big triangle. Every day I would go. It was a lot of driving, about an hour in the morning and an hour at night by the time we did the whole thing. So when we settled our finances, I said, oh, no, we're not going to move. We're not going to do anything crazy. I'm just going to put the money away. But as things have it, I wrote a little list of things that would be cool if I were to ever move. There would have to be XXX. So on the list were, let it be closer to school, because that would have been just simpler. And then there was, let it be close to a river, because there was a river and I love that. I had also let it be not too big of a yard, because the place that I was renting at that point, I had a push mower and it took me 3 or 4 hours a week minimum to cut the grass. So I didn't want as much maintenance. Let it be lock up and go, so easy maintenance. Let there be a space for each child. What else? I mean, that was basically it. But that was a pretty high thing, and it had to be in my price range too. So within about 3 months, I get a phone call from my mother. And she's like, Lisa, the house that they last renovated, my parents renovated houses and would flip them and sell them. Well, the house that they last renovated, they put the most time and money in. Like a big renovation. It was a house in Plantagenet. And my school where I worked is in Plantagenet. And the eventual school where my kids went is also in Plantagenet. Anyways, so I had been in that house. I had been in that house when they were renovating it, and I had, suggested things for their ceramic floors and different things. And she's like, my mother's like, it's for sale again. You have to go see it. So that house had sold a couple times since the last time they had renovated. They renovated it, sold it several years before, and there it was up for sale again. And I'm like, no, I don't think I'm... Finally, I said, well, you know what? I'll go see it. And if each child picks a corner of the house, then I'll know. So that's what we did. And I had forgotten about the list. But when I was moving, I found the list. And every single item on that list was ticked off. So it's close to a river, right on a river. You couldn't get closer. Like the backyard was the river. It was beautiful. I had the view of the church and the rapids and birds and ducks and geese and fishermen in the water. I mean, it was just beautiful. It was very close to school, 5-minute drive. It was a place that had a funky little yard, a little kind of triangular yard that we beautified over the years. Put an Italian style table. People came from school for lunch even. They would come for lunch and they'd sit on the river and go back to school. We spent 12 years there. Beautiful years. I did photography in my yard. I brought people for walks along the river and took pictures of them and their children when they were throwing rocks in the river. Like, it was just gorgeous. And I did a lot of renovations at that place as well. It was a very peaceful kind of cottage / house, because in the divorce, I kind of gave up the house and I gave up the cottage and we settled, but I didn't have that. So this house encompassed all of that in one. And it was beautiful. And then the pandemic hit and I quit my job. And then there was the tree cutting, and that really affected me because not only was it happening right on my road, I mean, they were cutting thousands of acres of trees. They cut down a massive pine tree that was on my road. It took 2 18-wheelers to take that massive pine tree out. It just broke my heart. I got very much involved. Very, very, very much involved for about 6 months. And then I thought, okay, maybe I'm pushing against a system that isn't ready for change. And that wasn't just the politicians. It was involving farmers. It was bad. It was a bad situation. And I thought, I'm going to battle this for a long time if I stay here. And I'm not sure that I'm in the right time at the right place to convey the right message of how important it is to conserve our trees. So come what may, I thought, I'll move to a community close by that it doesn't hurt me so much when I walk and I don't see all our trees, our forests are gone. And of course it was happening all over Prescott Russell, but it broke my heart. So I thought I'll move to a little town called Vankleek. But at the time, housing prices had gone through the roof. And so I couldn't buy anything. I sold my house within 1 week. It went poof like this. And the same weekend that I put my house for sale, my beautiful golden retriever Duke died. It was a very, very traumatic time. And I thought, oh my goodness, it's like the universe is slamming us, right? That's curveballs left, right, and center. Because I thought I was going to stay there. When I took my retirement, I wasn't sure what I was going to do, but I thought I was going to get involved in the arts community, the rec community, all this stuff. And I knew I might work again, but I didn't know in what. And but I thought I was going to stay there. My friends, my family, I come from there. My whole community was there. I never thought I was going to move, let alone to Québec City. So here I had sold my place, and in 1 week, and I'm looking around to buy another place, but everything is selling like little hot potatoes, and there's nothing in my price range, like really nothing. So after 4 weeks of looking, I was just like so sad. Like I ended up visiting a house in the middle of Hawkesbury. It was beside the beer store, and I'm like crying, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I thought, Lisa, go for a timeout. So I took a timeout and I went to the island, L'Île d'Orléans, which is outside of Québec City, gorgeous island. There's kind of like a spa. There was like a little, it's called the Triangle d'été. I stayed there for a weekend. And during that time, Jasmine, my oldest, who lives in Québec City, she brought me to visit some places. And I visited some condos in the city, and I visited some beautiful little apartments in the city. But I came home on the Saturday home. I went to the island on the Saturday, and I was there with Jasmine. We were sharing a bottle of wine, and I'm crying, and I'm like, ah, because I couldn't see myself moving from my river in Plantagenet to an apartment. I wasn't ready. I would have had to downsize. It was just too much, too much. My brain was exploding. So she reassured me, Mama, it's going to be fine. And she said, I tell you what, let's do a tour of the island. And maybe there'll be something on the island that's for sale that you might like. So she booked the place that we went to the next day. It was just down the road, just up the road from Le Triangle d'été. And the minute I saw it from the outside, I thought, wow, that beautiful house looks like a cupcake. It literally did. It looked like it had like a little hat on it. Sort of like the roof was it's an old, beautiful 1867 house. And the roof had like a metal teardrop shape. Turns out that I ended up buying that house. But the roof itself was a beauty. And the woman had done, she had applied for a government grant to help her pay for the renovations of the roof. Because what was done on the outside was all protected by Heritage Québec, or whatever it is, Culture something Québec. Culture et patrimoine something. Anyways, so that roof cost $65,000 just to have that roof done in the way that they did it. They had a yellow door, and I just knew. So then I went in the back. They had this beautiful back porch. And I thought, oh, this is so cute, with a little swing overlooking like a yard that I could see it in my head what I could do. And it was on the riverside. So further beyond that, there were little houses behind, but there was the river. So I went into the house, and it smelled like smoke. And this man who lived there, he was renting it. He was a bit of a hermit, nice enough, but a bit odd. All the windows were shut. It was dark. It smelled like smoke, and it was full of electronics because he did something in electronics. It wasn't very pretty. But the bones of the house were there. It was gorgeous. It had the wood floors, wood walls, very high ceilings, big spaces. And I thought, oh, my family's going to love, my friends are going to, we'll all come here. And so I bought that house. But before I got onto the island that weekend, I had driven through, I swear to God, 2 buckets at the end of a rainbow. Now, all my life I'd seen rainbows, and I'd always wondered, when am I going to pass through? Where's the end of the rainbow, right? And that story of the bucket of gold at the end of the rainbow. Well, on the way to the island, there had been a shower, and the sun came out, and I went through not 1, but 2, and right at the ends of the. So I saw that like as a sign, right? I'm like, this is a sign. And so that's the thing. It brought me to this house. Everything, the renovations of that house went beautifully. The people from the island were amazing. I posted pictures of the house on, they have a group on Facebook called Les Insulaires de l'Île d'Orléans. Anyways, so I had posted pictures and was so excited about buying this house. And I said, did anybody know the history of the house? Turns out that this house had been built by some mariners, people who worked the boats on the water, on the seaway, and they had 9 kids. And so 2 of the kids came to visit the house after I renovated, and they were so happy. It brought the house back to life. We had it painted in heritage colors. Jasmine helped me. Everybody fell in love with the place. I had visitors, it was like a Hotel Lisa for a year. Visitors every weekend almost, except maybe during the winter it started to get a bit lonely, because in the wintertime everything on the island shuts down. And then I was teaching English to people on the island, and I thought, well, I guess this is what I'm going to do. And then the universe sent me another curveball. Poof. It sent me a job in Québec City as a teacher. So at that point, I didn't really know. I knew that it was going to be expensive to pay for a house if I didn't have a job to supplement my little pension, because I took my pension early. I just didn't know exactly what I was going to do. So there I was offered this job. I took the job and I was teaching and driving back and forth from the house to school. And then that lasted 6 months. And then after that, I got a job even a little bit further in Quebec City, not too far, but still further, working as a part-time art teacher, which is what I do now at Quebec High School. And that was even further. So, and that at that point, they started to build this bridge that connects the island to, they're building a new bridge. That slowed all the traffic down. And sometimes I would spend an hour just waiting to get back on the bridge or leaving. It was a long drive. So I decided that as an overall picture for my life, and I was also seeing what life in the city was about. Like I had never lived in this city. So I thought, well, it's a very beautiful city. It's very green. There's lots of big trees. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool to live within walking distance of my school? And that could be a long-term kind of plan. And at lunchtime, I could come home, have lunch, go back to school. Because some days I had a class in the morning, class at the end of the day. And I would kind of just sit around at a cafe waiting. And my dog was at home. And I would leave at 4. And I wouldn't really benefit from the city because I'd be going back to the island. And on weekends, I wasn't going to come back into town. It was complicated. So I thought, in the short term, you do that for a year, that's one thing. You do that for 10 years, that can be very tiring. So I thought I will sell the house and I will find a place to live. And the first apartment I looked at was this apartment. And it took a while, okay? And I thought, Curveball, the people who bought my house, they didn't want to take possession of it until March. So it was very difficult financially because, I had to maintain this apartment and the house, not knowing what was going to happen from, say, July all the way to March. However, that gave me time to downsize. It gave us time to process me changing lifestyles. It gave me time to sit in this apartment and go, okay, I'm going to be here for a while. What do I want to do? What furniture do I want to keep? It's hard to go through all your things and make those decisions. At the same time, my girls were also in the process of changing their lives. So Jasmine needed furniture, Vic needed furniture, Jess needed furniture. So I was able to give away probably over half of my belongings. And I stayed in this apartment during the weekend. It was pretty much empty. So I could envision it and plan and take my time and get used to the city. And I had the country house at the same time for a period of time. There's no doubt about it. That year was super stressful. But I got it done. I had this place painted. I was able to bring my most special things. And that lasted 2 years. I'm able to walk to school. I love that. 5-minute walk. I'm able to go down to Les Plaines. I did miss very much big nature. Very, very much missed big nature. Like this, very beautiful here. It's very green. We could have a whole conversation about cities and how some green spaces are more in the more shishi areas of a city. And I'm learning a lot about cities. And then some places are not as nice, and usually it's for the workers, and that's just not fair. It's not fair. We'll have to talk about the environment and the impact it has on the people who live in the spaces. And it's not because you have money that you should live in a place that has prettier trees or more trees. I don't agree with that. But anyways, let's get back to the topic at hand. And now I've been here for 2.5 years. And I did sign a new lease in January, thinking I'm going to stay another year at least and go year by year. And boom, curveball. We're selling here. And I'm not selling here because I don't own it, but the landlady is. So I didn't want to risk it. I reached out to Jasmine the day that she told me. I reached out to Jasmine the day that she told me. And Jasmine found a place. I don't know why, how that happened. But anyways, there's a place. It's a 5-minute walk to school. It's a big mansion. It's old, okay? You press the buttons to turn on the lights. It's very old. And the press buttons to unlock the basement door. But I have my own entrance. I have parking. They allow a dog. Not normally, but they allow my dog. And there's a little backyard. See, the thing that I missed most here was having a little space to make a fire or have guests to have dinner outside, and they have that there. So I have the whole first floor. There is a couple living upstairs and a student living downstairs, but it's really very cool. So I'm moving, but right now I'm in limbo, and I've been very stressed about it, like really stressed. And the change is not easy. Everybody sees my life and they go, Lisa, how do you do it? It's not easy. And it doesn't mean that I'm not feeling stressed at times about it. But I do believe that, and I was talking to Rita this morning, my auntie Rita, and I was saying, like, what is this? Like, do we have some kind of destined line, life path that's kind of invisible, written out for us? Maybe. I think we have free choice. We have free will as to what we do with our lives. I think that we're meant to grow and change. And I asked her today, I said, do you think I've changed from when she knew me in Plantagenet to now? And she says, absolutely. I think you've really, really grown with the changes and the experiences, and you've come into yourself and into who you are, and you've expanded. And I think a lot of people, as they get older, they kind of don't want to do that anymore. They want to settle down. They want to stabilize. I want to stabilize. Okay. I don't want to move every year, but growth is important for us. So every time a curveball comes, I kind of try to adapt to that mentality. I try. It's not easy sometimes, and I get it. When people want to just stay put, I get it. So I also get that I have a very adventurous spirit. But even for me, I know that a nest is important to me, and also the environment that the nest is in, right? Trees, beauty, green is also important to me. So I could never live in a big apartment building that's very impersonal. It would have been very difficult for me to find another apartment that is similar to this one. But Jasmine just happened. The universe sent one to us. So that's where we're going to be going. And within about 3 weeks. So, I've had a lot of thoughts about control. I've had a lot of thoughts about releasing control and trusting the universe to guide me to where I'm next supposed to be. I am not against hard work. We've worked hard all our lives. A lot of people work hard, but there is something about kind of following, allowing yourself to accept where the universe is trying to lead you, and to look at it in a positive way. There's something to be said for that. So I'm just looking at. I wanted to mention community support, because my goal with this podcast is to kind of try to highlight what makes us human and what's important to us and what really matters. And for me, community support is super important. So when I'm leaving here, I'm not going to not be friends with my neighbors upstairs. I went to see them and I said, look, sometimes you need a car. You don't have a car. You can borrow my car. And we've been doing that. And they take care of Buddy, and they're so nice. This week I had to show this apartment, I think 4 or 5 times. And I'm starting school, and it's madness, utter craziness, because I have to make it look cute and, but they were amazing. They look, just come over, bring the dog. It's okay. It'll be fine. We've got you. And I'm going to be moving close by, and I'll have made new friends here. And I'll have beautified this apartment as well. This apartment was kind of like white and it was very beautiful. It's got gorgeous moldings and stuff, but right, we brought it to life and we make it more beautiful. And then we go somewhere else. And I'm already thinking about what I'm going to do with the little garden at the back. And I'm talking to Rita, okay, what kind of plants can we put back there, make it cute? And, how are we going to decorate it? So it's a new canvas, a new project, a new part, a new chapter, right? So that's how I look at it. I just wanted to come on and try to share all of the changes. That was my sitting on the moon moment, pulling back, trying to reframe, trying to understand the bigger picture. And then I'll probably zoom back in very, very soon, like this week, next weekend. My friends from Ontario are coming here. It was so nice of them, because I was stressed. I have only a couple of weeks to pack everything up. I have a ton of books and art and all this stuff. And they're going to come and help me pack, and then probably after I move, I'll have more friends coming to visit and more friends coming to help, and people will come and they'll stay. And I tell myself I'm like a turtle with my house on my back. I have all of me with me, and my people will come wherever I go. So on that note, I think that's what I wanted to talk about today, and I hope you enjoyed it. And subscribe to the Lisa podcast. Tell me if you like the video or you prefer video versus voice. I'm going to mess around with this a little bit. This was more of like I wrote some notes to kind of keep my mind, orderly. But it's kind of like the storytelling that I do in my class. So you got to see my crazy expressions and me rubbing my eyes and stuff. But oh well. It's more expressive, I think, than the voice. But maybe you listen to voice more than you do watch video. We'll see. We'll see. Have a great Sunday. And a great Monday off tomorrow. Bye.